welcome everybody to the 21st Formbird Fleet Professionals Community. Today we are talking about the whole of life cost calculator. We might take a look at the Formbird website. So can everyone see the Formbird website? No, they cannot. Okay, so if you are looking for, you can see the Formbird website now, looking for older editions of our meetups, our regular meetups, you can always just go to the resources tab and then down to blog. And if my internet connection is fast enough, you'll see all the meetups with the topics and all that sort of stuff. And if you do go to them and you want to just miss this boring bit at the beginning, you can actually just jump forward to, like, say, for example, there, Mark discusses the features and updates of the whole. Oh, that sounds like this one, but it's not. That was the original introduction to this one. Okay. Also, just in news, I'm going to tell some of my news, if you like. We were very proud sponsors of the AFMA conference, which was their AFMA conference up in Sydney, where we had pride of place in the very high priority, high, profile place. Very, very, very happy. We sponsored the toilets, and this is what we did. And so it was very exciting, and people had a good laugh at it. And we're still laughing at it. And I find that sort of stuff good. All right. Mark, turn yourself off mute. Oh, sorry. I'm talking to Mark Hosking. Sorry, Mark Siebel. I can see you moving your finger there. Mark Hosking, you're off mute, and you're just going to do...
Well, I was actually going to suggest that actually now that we've got Mark here, we can actually let the expert make comment on it, the real expert.
And see, so back to being off mute, and Mark, and well, perhaps Mark Siebel, can you tell us?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's great to be involved, and yeah, the whole of life cost tool is something that IPWEA have been working with Formbird for a number of years, well before my time. And I think it's something that was launched with a bit of a bang, and there was quite a few keen or avid supporters that got involved in it and have been using it, since its launch. But then I think over time, as COVID came along and people's roles changed and roles within IPWEA changed, we lost a bit of interest, I guess, in not just the tool, but the fundamentals of whole of life costs, and about actually making proper decisions on asset purchases. So we've sort of worked with the Formbird team to reinvigorate the whole of life cost tool. We went out to some of our users and asked them what they liked, what they didn't like, and essentially everyone loved what it did for them, but there were a few bugs in the system. Some of the exports didn't work and the reporting didn't work. So we've invested a bit of time working with Formbird to fix all those bugs, and now I believe we have a fairly robust tool that looks fresher, looks newer, and will allow IPWEA members to actually get back to the basics or the fundamentals of fleet management and use whole of life costings for asset purchases and asset reviews during the life of the assets and at the end of the assets, and be able to give them some really nice looking sort of printouts or some nice information that they can share across their organization to justify asset purchases, which is really important. As fleet people, we tend to stick to our own. We know why we're doing it, but one of the key things you need to be doing is telling other people why you're doing it as well. And I think this whole of life cost tool, will allow you to have a reference point, and also I'm not quite sure of the word, but a validation maybe within the organisation. I know talking to Michael at Parkshire, he uses it quite a lot, and when he goes to talk to his accounting team, being able to say, hey, I've done this analysis based on this tool, the accountants kind of go, oh, well, it must be good then, is sort of their response. So, it's a really valuable tool in that respect as well. So I'm excited about it, and, the relaunch of it, and obviously, getting more people back to using it and introducing new people to it as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Yeah. So the other, I suppose, maybe Ryan, you could give a bit of background if you'd like. Just Ryan's kind of one of our power users, so I think it'll be good if you could just say a few comments, Ryan, and where it's come from your point of view as a user, and from an operational point of view, how you're leveraging the tool itself would be fantastic. And then we'll get Adam to run through. Is it going to be Adam? I think it's going to be Adam. Run through the tool itself and talk about a bit more about it.
Paul today, but that's right.
All today, okay.
Yeah, no worries, Mark. Thanks, mate. Yeah, so look, it was one of those things when I first started at council, we didn't have a lot, and this was sort of something that I came across and have been using it ever since. The main ways that I sort of use it are around comparisons for purchasing. So we create projects in there, put all the information in, so we can compare responses from different vendors and whatnot to help with our decision analysis for our purchases. And also the other part we use it is to sanity check our internal charge rates across the board for all of our assets in the council. It gives us a good base to see if our actuals are sort of meeting what the mathematical equations end up spitting out at the end. So, and to try and find that middle ground between the two, to obviously cost recover, but also to make sure that we're actually charging people what they should be charged internally, and not just for every little thing that comes up. So, but it's been a really good tool for me. This new update, it's got a lot of good positives in there. It's much easier to read and look at and things like that. And and a couple of things we were speaking about the other day, with some future functionality around reporting and things like that would be good. But that's essentially how we use it. And look, it's been a great tool for us. One of the other things it's helped me with is I sort of train my workshop staff and mechanics into using the tool. So if they have any questions about things, they can go and run the numbers, and it sort of justifies the decisions we make as fleet managers, which helps them understand why we make a lot of decisions we make, and to present that to the rest of the business as well. So it's been a really good tool for us. Me especially, when I first started out, probably 5 or 6 years ago in council, and didn't have a lot to work with at the start. It was a very good tool to kick off my my fleet local government fleet career essentially. So yeah, it worked well for me.
Ryan, just it's interesting you sort of say that over that extended period. Is there anything that specifically it made you change your mind, or that you sort of, is it more about justifying what you're doing, or actually you've actually made some decisions there that the given, because you've used it for an extended period, so you've actually seen the whole of life of what you've been expected based on. So that's actually a very useful experience to have had. I'd be interested to know. We haven't actually brought up in our sort of internal meetings on the product, is that. What decisions have you made by using the tool that either helped you run the business or helped you make a better decision next time?
Yeah, look, I mean, just as a couple of examples, we had some historical purchasing arrangements with certain suppliers. My predecessors they weren't essentially numbers people. They were more worried about what color it was, what the sticker on the side of the thing was. And so there was a lot of ingrained, culture around certain brands and certain items of plant and things like that, it was very hard to, when you're trying to objectively change people's opinions of things. This tool really gave me the ability to take it to the business. Obviously there's certain people in the organization, you're never going to change their mind, right? They live and breathe cat for whatever reason, right? They love it. I use the example when it comes to work. I'm a very objective person, and I'm all about the numbers. But Sunday in October, sitting on top of the mountain watching the Bathurst race, mate, you can't tell me one way or the other. So, brand loyalty for me is outside of work. So, this tool gave me a really good background to sort of to address that culture and to pass it up the chain to the powers that be, and really show them that, look, once you put all your costs in, I understand that this particular one might be a bit more expensive, might be a bit more capital, might be whatever, but you can see by doing a whole of life cost analysis on this machine over the next 10 years, it's going to save us $200,000, right? And being able to show people that without having to, collate the data yourself, go through, create spreadsheets. Because I think, it made it a lot easier. And the other part of it is with local government, which, a lot of people in the room probably realise is whenever it's got an external company sticker on it, everyone cares about it. If you put your own name to it and created it yourself, everyone kind of fobs it off. So having that external tool from a third party, gave it a bit more clout too with our organisation. So all those things really helped me.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. That's really good perspective. Yeah. Mark, did you want to make any comments, reflection on Ryan's comments?
No, I think, other than sort of when I found Ryan was using it and had the similar conversation with him, it was kind of, it was, my true north is recentered again, that I'm not crazy. Whole of life cost is important as an asset management principle. So, yeah, I think that external validation, I mentioned it before, that Michael at Parks mentioned it and Ryan's just reconfirmed it again. As local government fleet people, we seem to, not me, but, our members seem to struggle with that, people listening to them, that like there's so much knowledge within our membership, there's so much experience with it. And a lot of them, they're the best people within their organization placed to actually be making, recommendations based on the numbers and rationalize decisions on asset purchases, not picking the green tractor or the blue tractor just because of the color. And as much as, driver input or operator input is important, that's what that weighting in the tool, it has a weighting criteria you can use from a procurement assessment point of view, and operator input might be 20 or 30% of the decision. That's important. But in my corporate world experience and in my other roles, when I go to a finance person and I say, here's the reason I'm making the decisions, and I've got all that data, and, as Ryan pointed out, the third party tool best practice as IPWEA, after 20 years of developing this stuff is considered, which is great. It certainly helps the fleet people within the local government get their message heard or be heard about their decisions and their recommendations. So, facts and data, it's annoying, it's time consuming sometimes, but it certainly validates. And maybe just keying on. So Ryan mentioned about some of the. So Ryan's been working with me and the Formbird team to kind of make some improvements to the tool. And there's one element of the tool that's always been there, but we haven't really used properly, and it's called, there's two parts. There's one called reference assets as a section in the tool, and another one is averages. So what the idea is there, in my understanding, is that a reference asset is meant to be there that everyone can access. That if you're doing a new whole of life cost on an excavator, you might not have all the information at your fingertips, and you might be researching it, but ideally the reference asset will have, for a 4.5 ton excavator, it will have fields that are pre-populated there, so you've got a starting point. So one of the developments we're working on is working with where at the moment I'm talking to Mannheim as an auction agent and industrial, so they've got a lot of data on what these assets are worth, so being able to sort of pre-populate some data as reference assets. And then looking at service costs, I had a meeting with someone today, one of our new members who's a civil construction company, and they've got a whole lot of service schedules on whole life costs for their plant and equipment. And they were telling me a rule of thumb is, maintenance costs are 20% of the purchase price over an 8,000 hour period. So it's about getting that sort of information and putting it in as a reference asset. So people who are new to the industry or new to that asset class can then start with some information without having to go and find it. The other component that we're going to use a lot more is the averages component. And once again, the more users we have using this tool, the more opportunities to get data into the tool. And with people like Ryan doing their calculations, they're not putting crap data in; they're putting good data because that's what they're using to make their decisions on. So if we can start using that data to form some averages, by asset class. So IPWEA, we have our asset classes that we split all the categories into, because if you're buying a grader, a Cat versus a Komatsu versus, another brand, a Volvo or something like that. Yeah, we're not going to get, it's very hard to go into detail of each individual brand, but as an asset class in a 20-ton grader or whatever it might be, we can hopefully give you averages based on, all the rest of the fleet community. So hopefully that will give you more confidence in the whole of life cost decisions and allow you to, save time as well. So there's some of the improvements we're planning to make over the next 6 and 12 months on the tool.
Great. Thanks, Mark. Well, I suppose it's time to have a quick look at it, Paul.
Yep, that'd be good.
Thanks for that, guys. Ryan, Mark.
Share screen. Works. Okay, so this is the there's two screens when you log in. There's a different view for the administrator, and there's a view for your organisation, if you like. So the data, a lot of the data is split specifically for your organisation, but there's shared data between the two. What you're looking at here is the administrative version. First up, I think we'll have a bit of a look at an existing calculation. This was done by Rob in his testing. To do a calculation, new calculation here. Mark was talking about reference assets and averaged assets. The tool will allow you to choose what sort of calculation, how to get the data into the tool, if you like, using this calculation type. So this is a user-entered data. So Rob's created this and you entered the data manually through the tool. There's also data from referenced, averaged, and average data as well. So we'll have a look at those as well, create a new one later. There's a status, so you can have active ones and inactive ones. You can kind of retire them when you're finished. A general description. Into the meat of it, we have asset details. So Rob's picked a grader. He's going to do a grader. This is a list of IPWEA asset types, and you can choose them via selection here or search here.
And sorry, Paul, I'll just jump in there just for a plug for the asset types. The reason why we do that is to allow benchmarking and comparison on that stuff as well. That's sort of the reason why that was developed many years ago. So it's an important part of this tool to be selecting that right asset type.
Thanks, Mark. Jump in anytime. So information entered here: purchase price, residual value, how many kilometres it's supposed to, kilometres or hours it is expected to be used in a year and the life. Have a fixed annual cost section and a variable. So this tool will allow you to either enter the data directly or calculate it via a calculation. So it'll do the calculation for you. So if you choose, these are automatically chosen for you to enter the information here, and then it does like a division for annual information. Otherwise it
yeah. So those calculations they're based on the plant vehicle management manual, the formulas from there. So that's a great thing about it. When we run the fleet management certificate, unit 2 is financial management, and we actually teach people how to do this manually, and it's probably the most failed first attempt in the course, and but all the information's in the plant vehicle management manual if you want to find out how those calculations work.
Variable cost section runs the same way. There's a charge out rate section and a rating section for ratings for the particular plant that you're doing. When all of this information is entered, you can calculate and save, and it'll do the total whole of life calculations, which are shown here down the bottom. So if I was to run one from scratch, from data from reference, you can see that the grid changes to a set of reference data. This can be accessed here. So there's a list of reference assets here. I'll just pick one for example. So these are sort of these are pre-done calculations, if you like, and the new calculation will inherit that information. So choose. Let's have a look at this one. Okay. So if I choose that, all these costs are pre-calculated, brought in from this information, which this doesn't need to be fully filled out. So if there's like a set of standard costs, we were talking with Ryan yesterday about fixed annual costs, which are basically fixed and don't change very much. So you could set up a reference asset with all of those fixed annual costs, just bring it in, and that saves a bunch of time entering all of this data. I think that's pretty complete. I'll skip those for the minute. But we're missing a purchase price. So the tool will do a check to make sure it's got all of the information it needs to run. Mandatory fields missing. So I've got to give it a name so it knows what it is. I'll give it another go. So that's created done the calculation, created a whole of life cost calculation. Now I was talking about projects. A project is a collection of calculations. So we can have a look at those. And we've got two. So in this project, there's a collection of calculations. And in the project page, we can choose a detailed analysis of the differences between these two calculations by clicking our detailed analysis. It brings up a table where the green items are the best or lowest, generally lowest. And that can be exported to an Excel spreadsheet. And there's another comparison type called a weighted comparison. This basically gives you the ability to enter a set of data where you might balance out the weightings for a particular element of the calculation.
That's where you put the operator likes the green tractor more than the blue tractor. Yeah.
So we'll grab a weighted comparison. And this generates a table where there's a score for each comparison and then a total. Oops. A total at the end. So I bought a new mouse yesterday and the scroll's different.
Once again, this reflects the plant vehicle management manual in the fleet management certificate in the procurement unit 3, where we talk about being able to make assessments on plant and vehicles and decisions, an unbiased assessment. So ideally with the weighting system, you've engaged with your fleet customers and to work out which is more important to assign the appropriate weighting. So environmental rating should, it's probably quite high for a lot of organizations. ANCAP might be high. Whole of life cost is normally the highest weighting. But through that engagement with the various stakeholders and customers, you can define the ratings. And then when you put all the information in, you're getting an unbiased recommendation. And just to share, when we do the Unit 3 procurement in the fleet management certificate, we give an assessment, and the correct answer is supplier A for that particular assessment. But quite often people pick supplier B, and the reason they do that is they say, "Oh, it's got a higher operator score. The operators like it more." But when we're marking the assessment, we have to go back to the students and say, "Well, no. The weighting determines what it is." So if you wanted a higher rating for the operators, you should have done that in the weighting system, in the weighting of the analysis. But based on the weighting, you've actually had those discussions and allowed the different criteria to be weighted accordingly. So it's a really good way to sort of present, to be able to once again internally show people that you're not just picking the supplier because he's your mate, or you're not just picking the red tractor because you like that one better. You're actually taking a very unbiased approach to procurement.
Thanks, Mark. The other aspect Mark was talking about was averages. So we have a list of the asset types. There's no actual averages calculated yet. It needs I built it so that it needs 3 calculations to do at least 3 calculations to do an average. There's not 3 calculations in the system. But when there is, it'll do an average for all of these fields based on the entries in the fields and the number of calculations it's got. We can then use those in the in a whole of life cost as well. So average asset data, that will present a table of averages of these asset types with the averages displayed, which you can select, and then it populates the fields based on those averages. The way that they get into the included in the calculation for averages is this little checkbox here. So that's currently available to Mark and the administrators. So there's some sort of data sanity check for what the averages will end up.
Yeah, we'll be using that. That's part of managing the data. So for example, Ryan's calculations, we trust him, so we'll tick that box for all his calculations. But if we see, we'll be looking through it, and then if we see some odd numbers where people are playing around, we'll take them out of the calculation so it doesn't distort the averages.
Yep. And the other element is contacts. So there's a list of suppliers which can be linked to the calculation, so that you know who's providing the information. Complete list of whole of life calculations. So here we've got, you can see the number of calculations per asset type. This graph is filterable by method type as well. Bit of information about filtering for this table, and a list of weightings. There's a set of instructions which is available to the people who are going to be using it, and of course one for the administrators as well.
So Paul, the instructions link to some YouTube links to YouTube. So there's some videos there so people can watch to work through, which is really good. And for those who like to read, you've got the PDF manual there as well.
We probably need to go through those at some point, Mark. Just I think they're still pointing at the old one, so it's still using the old the previous app. So we'll need to.
We'll have to get a budget for hire some new talent to do the videos. New voice, someone with a deeper TV voice.
Yeah, it's not me, I can tell you.
Yeah. I might just jump in, Ryan, just with the project side of it. When we were talking how you, from memory, how you use the projects, like when you're doing a new purchase, is that how, if you're purchasing a particular asset, that you'll put them all the bids or all the suppliers under one project? Is that how you use projects?
Yeah, so when you open up the new whole of life cost, when you start a new one, there's a section you can add it to a project. So you create the project first. And for me, it'll be I would use a plant number, so I'd be like I'm replacing sweeper number 9235 DB, and that would be what I would put in mine so that I could track it. And then so you just add it to that project when you start your whole of life, and then it automatically gets put into that project for when you finish. So if I had to do 6 responses from different suppliers, I just make sure I tick that same project for each of those. And then once I put in all the data and everything's there and I've finalized the calculations, then go back to the project section and then just work through the comparisons at the bottom. So, for me, I probably use the detailed one more than the weighted, if I'm honest. The detailed one spits out all the values and highlights the best or lowest or whatever we've decided is the most ideal value in each category. And that's what I said. And you can see they're highlighted in green, which in this case will always be the lowest one because it's the cost calculator essentially. So then it gives you a good range to then have a look. Which one's got the most greens. It's got a section at the end that collates all those that part there. So you got your totals, total over life, total annual cost. So depending on how many years you've decided the asset needs to be in service for, it breaks all that up. Depreciation, having that in there is good for us. We have to work with the finance team to go through our depreciation stuff as well. So having all those there, and then the section there with the replacement reserve, the cost recovery and the higher rate, we use that part to then sort of sanity check our internal charges, which are done in a different way. We have a Deb, our fleet support officer, puts all those together before the budgets get done every year. But this is a great tool. We run a lot of our asset types through this just to sanity check those. So it gives you those values there. And because I'm replacing, roughly on average, I probably do 20 to 30 assets every financial year we replace. So a lot of the data's already there from this financial or the previous financial year. So don't have to essentially, because it stays there, you're not having to go back every time and redo all the calculations. Maybe just go in and update fuel price or, if you've had a spike in insurance premiums and things like that, you can update those in the existing ones, which is really good. You don't have to recalculate everything from scratch. It's all just sitting there in the project. So that's how I use it. And look, it works really well for how we do it. And the projects are probably what I use the most in this tool, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I've had some conversations with other users. They use the projects to, I'll just use the Ute as an example. They'll put a Ranger, a Hilux, a BT50, and maybe a Navara in there in that one project, and they'll collect all the information, and then they'll update it every so often, and then they can essentially see which is the best Ute in that category. So they have a project per asset class almost, and for their the ones that they're purchasing regularly, which made a bit of sense to me.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the only hard part to get out of the salesman sometimes is the stuff for the waiting. Trying to get fuel economy out of a truck salesman's like pulling teeth sometimes. So they're like, yeah, it's really good, and I'm like, well, what are your numbers? Oh, we can't give you that. So it's but sometimes once you've got the data, it's perfect.
Yeah. And I suppose you mentioned before about comparing against your own data too. Like I know everyone struggles depending on how they record data, but there's each local government and each fleet has a lot of data of their own they can use to sanity check as well.
Yeah, 100%, mate. It's one of those things where we've had the same 4,000 page spreadsheet for doing our internal charges that gets updated every year with the previous year's actual costs, and everything gets put into there, and it's a massive, it's super convoluted way of doing it, but it spits out, the perfect amount based on what we're doing at the moment, and we haven't found a better way of using those actuals. But for me, like if I didn't if that system wasn't already in place, I would use this. To be honest, if I'm honest, right, it gives you everything you need. If you don't have those big complex systems already in place with someone monitoring them, I guess I was lucky in the sense that we did have finance people and the fleet support officer who had been in those roles doing this stuff for a number of years and had created these big complex processes. I guarantee you when Deb retires in 10 years, this will be the way to go 100%. Things like this will be the way forward, because I won't be doing the amount of data entry and data work that she does now. It's not in my wheelhouse, and it's not something I'm passionate about. So I always say sometimes you need to give a lazy person a busy person's job to find a better way to do it. Sometimes there's always a quicker way to find, and don't get me wrong, like accuracy is always, important, but sometimes the amount of work to get the most accurate output, when you can get a sort of a 5 to 10% variance by doing a tenth of the work in our world, that's probably, what you need to aim for. And tools like this give you that based on averages and the data you put into it, which is why I think simplifying it is a lot better, especially for people with smaller fleets too. If you've only got 200 assets to look after, you don't want to be doing a whole bunch of complex work, because if you've only got 200 assets, you're probably one person doing the whole lot. If you've got 5,000 assets, there's probably a team of 10 people. So I guess it all depends on the scale as well.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. Thanks, Ryan.
I think I've covered it all. Anything else you reckon, Mark?
No, I think that's it, Paul. I suppose for individual use, I must admit, when I first started looking at the tool, I was kind of, oh, this looks a bit complicated. But once I got into it, it's quite easy. And then when I talk to people like Ryan and other users, it becomes second nature like anything. And getting the data to do the calculations isn't that hard. It really is that first couple that you've just got to sort of dedicate the time to doing, which, and then once you're familiar with the tool, I think it will provide, if nothing else, like we've said it several times, it may not shorten the amount of time. You may have a spreadsheet or something that you're already using, but if it will provide a third party validation to your internal stakeholders to say, hey, that this isn't just me. This is a tool that's used by our industry and our community, fleet community. So it's a bit more of an independent validation, I guess, and that's probably another key benefit of it.
Good. Thanks, Mark. Is there actually just opening the floor a little bit? Is there anyone, Stephen, Penny, David, Bailey, Jamie, any of you guys want to ask any questions or?
Yeah, I've got a few questions or comments. If you're happy for me to start.
Absolutely.
No worries. Well, there was a couple of things. One of the first things with FBT on the calculator, was there the choice to have the operating method in there? Or is it just purely on statutory 20%?
That's a good question. I remember talking about that early on, but then it's probably fell off our discussion list. I think it's just a statutory 20%, but
right, yeah. And then obviously with the ATO, you got to break it down for the original cost price you paid, excluding rego and stamp duty, and the cost of any non-fitted business accessories, dealer delivery charges, and then all costs and charges should include GST and luxury car tax, which means a lot more fields to put in there. But obviously that's something you could work on for future improvements. And the other comment I had is sometimes I get asked, this is purely for council-owned vehicles. I get asked every now and then, what would it can we do a comparison on, you know, operating lease, full financial lease or novated lease versus owning? And obviously there's some development needed there to go, okay, we've got, you know, 50 Ford Rangers, just, you know, with tubs on them. What would that cost to lease, for example, or novate, and to get that number and deliver it to management to go, no, it's still better to buy, or no, it looks better to go the other way, because many councils, you know, especially around us, are going away from council-owned vehicles, especially the people that you know, just drive to and from the office, whereas the you know, obviously the tool of trade, people that need to be in the field, would more than likely stay council owned. That was all.
Yeah, that's a valid statement, and probably beyond the scope of this tool. Yeah, those commuter use vehicles that some people call them, or benefit vehicles.
Yeah, they're not on there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not meant to. It's meant to allow you to work out a charge for. Like, you could use this tool to say, "Yep, we're going to charge them this much based on the."
Well, this is what it costs. It costs this much a month to run.
Yeah.
What does a lease cost? And then you go, which one's higher or lower, and how do you want to go about it? What's your business strategy?
Yeah. Like this, you know, with your operational vehicles, deciding whether to outsource those to finance or own them. This, you know, using whole of life cost this way can allow you to understand what it is to own them. And then you can ask for a quote from the leasing company, and they can, you know, tell you. But the interesting thing here is you won't, in this model, we're breaking down things like garaging, administration, insurance. Yeah, you've got to do a like for like comparison if you are looking at an operating lease, because they don't look at, you know, those sort of costs as well. So, but yeah, that buy versus own is probably outside of the capabilities of this tool. But yeah,
no, that's fair enough.
Yeah, that becomes really a finance decision, doesn't it? So it's
just a question I get asked every couple of years: is it still viable to own? And you go and do a few numbers or get a few quotes and do the comparison. So just thought I'd throw it out there.
Yeah.
And one other question, you know, I'm a bit like Ryan, you know, how do we do more with less? Is there any way of like importing, you know, if I type in Ford Ranger Ute, you know, importing the fuel economy numbers already, bit of other data in from sources like Redbook or that, rather than going every line item, I've got to go and look it up myself. Get the data, type it in, and to enable us. Once you got the data, it's fine. But even like pricing, we use the Victorian government, state government buying, and those prices change every 3 months. So the work I did earlier this year is all out of date, and you got to go in and say, right, what's the price of that ute now? What's the price of the accessories like tow bars and things? And then the other question is things like the utes we have with bodies on it. You know, we're looking, for example, some of our utes we use for sign replacements. They got, you know, purpose-built bodies, but using, you know, having the cost of that body, but spreading it over 2 chassis. So maybe keep the body for a 10-year period, and the cab chassis for 5 years each, and doing a refurb on the body and being able to atomize that over a 10-year period, for example.
Yeah, as far as, you know, just the having the Ford Ranger fuel economy and Redbook values, that so the reference assets is how we're planning to help assist with that. So we're sort of planning to officially launch in July, and by that stage, hopefully have a number of reference assets in there that already have a lot of that data for you.
That'd be great, especially the you know, in 5 years' time, what's a Ford Ranger Ute, you know, 5 years old with, I don't know, 120,000 Ks, to give you a guide of resale. Some of the, Red Book has it on a lot of vehicles, but some of it's, a bit of a guesstimate. Might be, it's worth 40% of new or whatever.
Yeah. I do have crystal balls for sale too, David, that we can talk about that
Oh
separately.
yeah, no, what I'm saying is Red Book's got a lot of the data.
Yeah.
Let's use it where we can, and where we can't, you either got to use historical, or you go, well, we think it's going, it's a guide anyway. And the ultimate thing is when you send it to auction, well, that's your price.
Yeah.
And as we know, like anything you auction, it varies.
Yeah. So yeah, things like fuel economy, cap price servicing, whether it's Red Book or another source of predicted future value. I think that the aim is to provide a lot of that information to make it easier for everybody. And then when you get to pricing, the complications of a body or variant dealer, like we just add the price in separately based on.
Well, the purchase price and bodies, you understand you got to put that in, or in our case, as the Victorian government contracts get updated, we've got to go on and put the new pricing in to get the latest and greatest.
Okay, guys.
But all good. So
all good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions anywhere? Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. We're running out of time.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you to Adam and Paul.
Thank you
very much.
You got a question?
Go through next Thursday, so you're done next Thursday.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, David. Yes. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks everyone.
Great.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, David.
And next meetup is on August the 1st, where we've got a new topic, which is on my next page, which is recording plant hours, the time assets are allocated to jobs as another measure of utilisation. A discussion based on a request from Anthony Davies from Forbes to be able to record asset usage on works management jobs. See you next time. Thank you very much for everyone for coming.
Thanks, everyone.
Easy, guys.